At my school, I go by a nickname, which is not Azaria. It's not my birth name either. What's interesting about this nickname is it's more of a moniker of who I am than my birth name, as far as other people view me, because it's what my parents have always called me. It's a derivative of my first name, and it's a fairly common name to be a nickname, but I cannot really remember the last time anybody in any sort of position of power, excluding doctors, has used it for me. Everyone just uses this nickname thing. Except this one kid at my school, who insists on calling me by my actual legitimate birth name. And I'm not even talking about my issue with the name associated with me pre-acknowledgement of my non-binariness or whatever. Like, this is a name that is only used in a legal sense. I'm not actually quite sure where this kid picked up that this was my name, but they did. And so I hate it when this kid uses it because it makes me feel awful. It makes me feel weird inside in ways I cannot describe, other than it just sort of feels like the very beginning of when my body did that weird thing where it was like the cartilage in my chest was like, hey, we're gonna try and make you think you have a heart attack. So like, it's clearly not me feeling like I have a heart attack, but it's like that very pre-thing, like something is distinctly wrong and I can distinctly feel it, and it's not a usual wrongness. And it also then, it's a similar, in addition to that, a similar dysphoria source that in the past my periods have been. And they still are to some extent. Though I think I associate it more with the cramping than with the actual period. But who knows? Who knows? So this really inspired me to talk about birth names and why they're so problematic. And you could make the argument that everybody should, like, choose their own name when they turn 18 or whatever, and that would solve all sorts of problems, and you're right. And you could also make the argument that you should stick with your name because nobody chooses their name. It's what was given to them, and that's kind of okay. And you can make the argument that all names are going to be an inaccurate reflection because they're given to babies, not like adults or teens or whatever. And like, I see where you're coming from. But names historically have been associated with like who people are as adults. And from like a Christian perspective, the Bible's chock full of name changes. And name changes often are reflective of role changes. I cannot speak for why other people in other situations would change their names, but I know a lot of trans people pick different names because they recognize that they are different people and have stepped into roles they were designed for that nobody recognized. And I think that's the key. Because it's not so much we're changing as much as we are acknowledging this piece of us that others in the past have not, and maybe in the present and future will not recognize within us. And so when this kid calls me by my birth name, which you'll notice I have not mentioned, it's an indicator that he refuses to recognize who I am and instead projects this image onto me based on his assumptions about this name. And even when people use this nickname that I've been given, even though I have told exactly one person sort of like a preferred name over that, and that one person does not use it in public when we are like with people we mutually know, using that name that was assigned to me, even in a less official way, is an indicator that you are valuing sort of my parents' view of me over my view of me. And so that's why it's important really to recognize trans people's chosen names, and I guess anybody who changes their name. Like, a good example is people who go into witness protection. They are stepping into these new identities. The analogy breaks down, of course, because these new identities are created in witness protection, versus with trans people, they are recognized, and this old identity that is inaccurate is shed. Whereas with witness protection, the old identity is, like, I guess, who you were. Who you actually were. But you use... the end result is the same. You use the name, the chosen name, or the new name, I guess, of someone in witness protection and of a trans person to ensure survival, safety, and security. And survival is obviously like the prolonging of existence on an earthly terrestrial plane. Safety is the extension of protection and relative ability to partake in the duration of this terrestrial life. And security is about, I guess, like, minimizing the stressors of this earthly terrestrial existence. And so, basically, kid at my school, why you do this to me? People who don't recognize trans people's chosen names, and non-binary people who don't like to use the label trans, why you do this to us? Yeah, and that's what I'm talking about today. Was this video informative? Leave a like. Was it inflammatory? Leave a comment. Was it intriguing? Subscribe. Hit me up on Twitter or Tumblr using the hashtag AskAzaria, or the DM system on Twitter and Asks on Tumblr to be featured in our next Just Asking Monday. Bonus information for anybody who happens to be a Presbyterian in high school, or who will be in high school in next fall. A couple of Presbyterian sub-denominations partake in this thing called Presbyterian Triennium, and apparently my church was going to that, and apparently I'm signed up for that. So if you happen to be going, consider it a meet and greet. I hope you have a great day.